calling you auntie anymore. Can we just call
I
you?
know.
Oh, okay. This is going live, so that works. But anyway, thank you so much. Welcome to this session of Let Us Talk It webinar, youth webinar, where we have amazing youths waiting to for you, for all the audience here who have joined us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. Please, we welcome you, and we are really happy to have you with us. And in today's session, we talk about a very important, rather, the youths talk about a very important topic. Appreciation can make a day, even change a life. Our willingness to put it into words is all that is necessary. But somehow we are not all blessed to be around people who are ready to appreciate for who we are or for what we do, and would sometimes question, why should we even appreciate you? It's your duty. Or sometimes we parents even think that the kids are doing good because of us, so we forget to appreciate. So this has been a challenge to many. This has not affected any, but somehow down the line the youths have come up with this topic: appreciation from others versus self-contentment. To know the importance when we get the appreciation from outside, when we do not, and how to balance it out. So we have with us our youth panelist. We have for the first time the confident Medha. She is a rising junior. We have Kriti, a straightforward girl, a high school graduate. We have the multi-talented high school graduate Srishti, and we have the quiet, composed Siri and Pranav. They are brother and sister. Siri is a ninth grader and Pranav is a 10th grader. And we have obviously the sensible and composed high school graduate Shridula as the moderator. And for the first time, for the last 1.5 years that I'm doing this webinar, moderating it, have come live for the request of these youths, especially Abhinav, and he will also join us as the guest speaker later in the program. So welcoming everyone, let's get started. Welcome all the guest speakers. Over to you, Shridula.
Yes, thank you so much, Atula and Auntie. Hi, everyone, and welcome. Especially in difficult times like this, it's very important to maintain our self-confidence. But even in normal times, that's not always easy. Sometimes we crave compliments and applause from others to boost our self-esteem and morale. But today we will be talking about self-contentment, what it is, and how to balance being happy with yourself internally with your desire for validation from others. So let's get started. Sorry. This topic affects people of all backgrounds, ages, and genders. But before we jump into it, we'll start off by introducing ourselves, your moderator panelists. Then we will define some of the important terms that we will be talking about today. Third, we will discuss self-love's close ties with social media and technology, especially in today's media and digital technology-driven world, before jumping into the dangers of too much external validation. And then, of course, before the Q&A session, we will close up with some ideas on how you can build up your self-contentment, self-esteem, and confidence levels. So first, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Sridula. I will be a freshman at the University of Michigan in the fall. In my free time, I like hanging out with my dog, I like running, I like gardening, and I like reading. And I will be your moderator today. So today we're also joined by the very wonderful and my good friend Srishti.
Thanks, Shridula. Hi everyone, I'm Srishti Chilla. I am also a high school graduate. I will be attending Wednesday University to study neuroscience and psychology. And in my free time, I kind of do a lot of things. I'm just all over the place, but mostly I do art, I sing, and I'm starting to learn guitar. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Srishti. We're also joined today by the wonderful Kriti.
Hi, I'm Kriti, and I just graduated from Troy High, and I'm going into Michigan State University to major in computer science. And in my free time, I love photography. I love taking pictures. I love singing. I'm learning the piano, and I like doing art.
Thank you, Kriti. Today, we also have our newest panelist member, Medha.
Hi everyone, I'm Maida. I'm a rising junior at Thomas Jefferson High School. And in my free time, I love playing the violin, singing, dancing, and writing.
Thank you, Medha. We also have with us today Siri.
Hi, my name is Siri and I'm 13 years old and I'm going to ninth grade at Lambert High School in Georgia. And in my free time, I like to sing, dance, read, and knit.
Thank you, Siri. We also have today with us Pranav.
Hi, my name is Pranav, and I'm a rising sophomore at Lambert High School. In my free time, I like to sing. I like to play basketball, and yeah, that's it.
Yes, thank you, Pranav. So these are our wonderful panelists. And before we get into the discussion or more interactive sessions today, we wanted to start off by defining the terms self-contentment and external validation. So to do that today will be Siri and Pranav.
So, self-contentment is a term used to describe feeling at peace with yourself and your efforts, being happy with who you are, your attempts at whatever you are trying to do, and still striving to be a better version of yourself, to grow.
So what is external validation? External validation is affirmation from the society around you, validating who you are, your attempts at something. Oftentimes, it serves as a boost of morale. A person gains a sense of self-pride when others approve of their behavior, work, thoughts, etc. He or she needs someone or something to show that they are good enough. This can be simple compliment from a stranger, awards and achievements, or likes on a social media post.
Exactly, thank you both. So now we have mentioned that these two affect different people in various ways. So to jump into these trends that we see and kind of dissect them, Srishti will be telling us a little bit more about these.
Thank you, Shudila. All right, so we have a visual here. It's the trends in self-esteem. So as we can see on the right side of the whole visual, we see a little kind of bar graph-ish visual. And we see that as a child, you have more self-esteem than compared to a teenager. Because as you grow, your self-esteem does tend to decrease. But as an adult, it goes back up. And once you're old, it actually comes back down. It's crazy because I didn't expect the last two to be lower. I thought it would be more higher self-esteem for adults and older people. But why might this be? A child doesn't know what they're doing, if it's wrong or right. They don't understand the difference between good or bad unless you tell them. So they think that whatever they're doing is correct. So they have more self-esteem in what they're doing. Now, coming to a teenager, they do a lot of things. They have clubs, activities, and they're always seeking validation from teachers, parents, friends, closer people to them. And sometimes they don't get that validation, and that's why self-esteem goes down. But there are a lot of other roles that play in the life of a teenager. So now going to an adult, the self-esteem does go back up, but it doesn't go completely back up because you're still an adult. You know how the world works around you, and you're always trying to get approval from your bosses and maybe still your parents, and your self-esteem doesn't go completely higher. And now coming to an older person, a grandma, a grandpa, your self-esteem goes down. It's in the middle-ish because yes, the older person knows what they have done throughout their life, but there's still some feeling within them that they didn't do enough. They didn't provide enough to the society. And with that feeling, their self-esteem remains in the 50-50 area. So now coming to the left side of the visual, there's a gender comparison. So now we have females and males. Males tend to have higher self-esteem compared to females, because females typically tend to worry about a lot more stuff than females. And in what ways? This can actually go both ways for males and females, but mostly females, but this is for both. So in what ways? They feel like they haven't accomplished enough, even though they probably have. Although they are unique, they feel like they aren't enough and they try harder to become someone they aren't. They don't realize that the fact that they're unique and that fact itself is wonderful. And this leads to a lower self-esteem as they crave and search for appreciation and validation from others. Number two, we're gonna go to looks, both for females and males. They're always comparing themselves to other people's looks and how they carry themselves. But the thing is, now coming to talking about comparison, like fingerprints, no two people have the same brain anatomy. No two people have the same experience as anybody else. Each individual is different from each other in their own ways, such as how they're brought up, their learnings, their capability, risk appetite, and current mood. Basically, the whole circumstances for each person is different. Now, after all this being said, no matter what your perception is, you cannot rely on outside appreciations and you cannot compare yourself to other people, because the only validation you need to bring your happiness up and self-esteem up is from yourself. Be your own inspiration. And most of the people don't know this, and that's why the self-esteem goes back down. Third point I'd be talking about, especially for females, is the double standards. Extra load pressure. For males, it can just be, for example, if the male is going to a job interview, they can just have a good resume and just have a good personality to be chosen for the job. Good skills, obviously. But coming to females, the females are expected to look good, act like a female. And most of the times, they're given jobs such as assistants or clerk kind of jobs. Why? Because they're females, and that's how the society works, used to work. But I mean, it's great that the world is evolving and there are more opportunities given to females now in the 21st century, but only to some extent. And because this whole process towards females is designed in this way, the self-esteem for females is lower. And also, females are expected to work from home, to work at work, take care of their children. And having this said, females typically don't get the time to focus on themselves and their goals, which then makes their life more stressful. This then leads the people in search of appreciation for the work they're expected to do, irrespective of if they like it or not. This leads to identity crisis, which I will talk about later in the presentation. And lastly, science plays a role, biology. There's hormonal changes and puberty for anyone, and going through these changes definitely leads in lower self-esteem. And I think I talked a lot on it, and it's still vast. It's a vast topic to talk about, but those are the basics. On to you, Shudla.
Yeah, those are all really good points, Trishti. Thank you so much for bringing those up. You know, when we talk about if all of us can just think back to our childhood, when maybe some of us might have been into some kind of art, and not all 3-year-olds are like art prodigies. So thinking back to those times when we just drew whatever we wanted and didn't really think about comparing our work to other people's work. Sometimes we would get the praise, like our parents might say, oh, wow, that's so pretty. Sometimes we might not, but we just did what we felt like doing without worrying about the results or comparing ourselves to other 3-year-olds' artwork. So that really explains the high self-esteem that young kids might have. And then, of course, entering into the teenage years, so much is changing in life. We're still trying to find our identities, trying to understand how to form relationships, how to navigate those. And of course, for a lot of people, applying to college can be a huge source of external validation or lack thereof, depending on what college they get into or what colleges did their friends get into. So yeah, there are a lot of factors that go into determining the self-esteem of a person. And of course, talking about the gender gaps as well, when you said, Srishti, that science plays a huge role, that is a really good point. And that really got me thinking about how a lot of young women or female teenagers, when they're entering puberty, um, have to face a lot of stigma from society and a lot of just really inappropriate jokes like, oh, are you hormonal? Is it your time of month? And those kinds of things can be really, excuse me, really devastating for a young girl's self-esteem. So yeah, thank you for bringing all of those up, Srishti. These are really good points that we should all keep in mind. So moving on, Kriti will tell us a little bit more about how social media can play a huge role in our self-esteem.
Thank you, Sheila. So, like Srishti said, self-contentment is extremely important. However, external validation can be a little boost to your day, and social media can play a role in that. Social media can help you either grow your self-esteem or it can help you, decrease your self-esteem. So YouTubers, for example, have sometimes started their YouTube channels at low points in their life, but when they receive the overwhelming support online that they don't expect after putting themselves out to the public, it boosts their self-esteem because they find people are often inspired by them, or that people tend to pick up their positive sides of their own character that they haven't even realized before. And that really can help a YouTuber grow their own self-esteem. And I think even Shrishti has an example about that, if you want to say
Yeah.
that.
So I feel like a lot of you guys know Lily Singh, known as Superwoman. So I started watching her videos and I was like, wow, her content is amazing. And I subscribed and I liked all of her videos. But then I realized that in one of her videos, she said that she only started the YouTube channel because one, her college life wasn't good. She did not like what she was doing, but she only did it to impress her parents and her friends. She was trying to get validation and appreciation from her parents and friends and relatives, but she did not find happiness in what she was doing. Then she started the YouTube channel where she started creating funny and really entertaining content, and people around the world really appreciated that. And that kind of appreciation that Lily Singh got really boosted her self esteem, and I think it only helped her, if anything. And so that's one example. Thank you, Kriti. Back to you.
Yeah. So YouTube can be a creative platform to express yourself, which can really help boost your self-esteem. But even on a smaller scale, on YouTube, if you see like a YouTuber you relate with, or see someone doing the same things as you and getting the support, you know that you're on the right track because it serves as sort of an external validation or affirmation that you're doing a good job at whatever you might have in common with the YouTuber that you're looking at who's being recognized for the same thing. Even on other platforms such as Instagram, Snap, Twitter, Facebook, when you post something, whether we admit it or not, we like the comments that follow and we like the little likes that follow, not because we pay too much attention to them and it, occupies our mind, but because it serves as a little boost to your self-esteem, little motivators that can give you a little extra energy to go about your day. However, if you don't know where to draw the line on how much you should let social media impact you, it poses a danger of being used as a measure to see where you should be as a person, which can cause you to lower your self-esteem. For example, you might see someone else and you might wish, oh, I wish I had the same qualities as them, or oh, they don't have these flaws as I do. And that can be really dangerous because you start spiraling down a whole tunnel of self-deprecation, and that can be really dangerous, and you can even start wishing that you become someone else. And that's why it's important to set boundaries on how much you let the social media impact you, and remember to use it as a resource or maybe inspiration for future projects, and as a little celebration of yourself. Back to you, Sridhara.
Exactly, Kriti. All really good points. Thank you. So you kind of touched on how it can be dangerous for us, but there are also other dangers that are presented, especially when we rely excessively on external validation. So Srishti will be talking a little bit more about the dangers of too much external validation.
Thanks, Shizala. Okay, so external validation. We know we've come across the definition. It's just validation and affirmation from the society around you. So why is it dangerous? Because one, first off, it's temporary, and getting approval or validation that is temporary probably is not going to stick with you forever, and it's not something that a person should really worry about. But people do tend to worry about this temporary validation, which leads them into as Kriti said, self-deprecating whirlpool. The next part is you feel insecure. Why? You don't, because you don't get positive feedback from people, and sometimes that becomes really unhealthy. Honestly, not sometimes. It's always unhealthy. And if you don't get positive feedback from others, you have yourself to get positive feedback from yourself. And I think that's a boost that you have to give yourself when you don't get positive feedback from others. But people don't tend to do that, and they start feeling insecure, which is completely bad. Next off, we have identity. People seriously face identity crisis because of this whole self-esteem, validation, appreciation situation. Why? Because they're chasing the external validation, they're craving external validation, and they tend to start to please others and not themselves. So this is where they lose their identity to satisfy others and entertain others. And so next off, we got self-care. Now, if you're spending most of your time pleasing others and satisfying everyone else, when are you going to get the time to focus on yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, and really do stuff that you feel happy about? When are you going to do that? Never, because you're always running around people trying to satisfy what they like. And by you, I mean people in general. But that's what people do a lot, and you forget to take care of yourself. And that is completely, I guess I can say, destroys your life, and you would definitely again go in a devastating little whirlpool. So an example from my life is when I started doing art and posting it on social media. um, I actually got an Instagram account, and I didn't have a lot of followers, obviously, because I just got the Instagram account, but I was too naive to realize that. So obviously, if I didn't have any followers, that means I don't get any likes. So I posted my art, didn't get any likes, and I thought my art was bad. And obviously, I wasn't a pro at art back then, and I was probably a little iffy on my art. But still, I got really sad, and I thought my art was worthless. Art was worthless, and I became really sad. But then I started realizing that maybe it's not all about social media, and maybe it's not all about people that I don't um, really associate myself with. So then I started going to competitions and taking part in competitions and winning most of them, surprisingly, which where I knew my worth and my art's worth. So even if I don't get appreciations on my art or on my any other art skills, now I know that I am at a level where I can judge my own art and either be satisfied with what I've done or not, and maybe improve on it. So, what is the bottom line here? You need to identify the things you lack in your life. You need to challenge yourself by working on your faults and improving them. You need to accept your success and failures in a positive way. Don't take anything negative. Failures are still positive because you learn from them. So basically, you just celebrate your success and grow from the failures. You have to learn to trust this process. It does not happen overnight in a snap. It takes time. You have to learn and trust the process. And this probably shouldn't negatively affect you if you follow all these steps. And so I think that's one way you can kind of avoid excessive external validation cravings. Thank you, Shidula. Back to you.
Yeah, all really good points. I especially like that you said to grow from the failures, I guess. And, that's a really good point because external feedback can come positively or negatively. Sometimes we might get constructive criticism, and sometimes we might just get praise, but we have to be able to accept both of those. Those are all really good points. And now, before we move on to the question and answer session, we have a really important slide for you on how we can create or increase our self-contentment. So Medha will be talking a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Shridula. So, to create self contentment within yourself, there are a couple things that can be done. First, one of the most helpful things you can do is pursue passions or activities that truly engage you. Examples are yoga, sports, or forms of art such as singing, dancing, or painting. Anything that your mind immediately goes to when you have some free time is a passion
I think yeah, she mentioned something about a YouTuber that
Yeah, you can have the questions at the end, Parin. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, anything that your mind immediately goes to when you have some free time is a passion because you're not doing it as a responsibility, but because you truly enjoy it. And when you're doing something you truly enjoy, it diverts your mind from the constant cycle of needing external validation and any negative feelings inside of you. It actually helps even more to do this with friends who are passionate about the same things because you can talk to them about what you love and it creates a positive atmosphere which makes you feel content within. And one last important thing to keep in mind is that you cannot get true and genuine appreciation from everyone, specifically those who don't know you well, because most people who don't know you as a person will not go out of their way to appreciate you and give you the support you sometimes need. And even if they do give you compliments, a lot of the time they're just nice to hear and not necessarily words that you need to feel good and grow as a person, as Shishti mentioned earlier. So, to summarize, valuable advice most often comes from people who know you well, which is why it's important to have a close circle of friends and healthy relationships with your family to have a support system. That way, when you're feeling down and need appreciation or just a couple words to get you going, the people closest to you will always be there to appreciate you genuinely and also tell you when you're wrong so you can grow. And through this, self contentment is created as well. I hope these tips will be helpful as all of us find that happiness within. And that's all I have for today. So back to you, Shidla.
Yeah, thank you, Megha. All really, really important, valuable, and really good tips. I kind of want to emphasize, especially for the last one, that it's really important to have a close circle of family and friends. Sometimes you might be the kind of person who likes to have a lot of friends, but if you're not, that you shouldn't also have that pressure that you need a lot of friends. What's really important is that you have a close circle of friends, people who can support you and you can communicate with, and really just be yourself with. So it's not always quantity, it's also about the quality of the relationship that you share with them. So yeah, definitely thank you so much, Medha. And with that, we are ready to go into our interactive session with our panelists and guest speakers. Does to start us off, do any of our viewers have any questions? You are welcome to submit your questions. If you're watching through Zoom, you can use the Q&A or the chat, or you can just unmute yourself and verbalize your question. If you're watching through YouTube or Facebook, you can use the chat or comments section for the live stream as well. So whichever one works best for you. But as we're waiting for those questions to trickle in, I have a couple of questions for you guys. So I know, Srishti, you mentioned that you are a singer and you do a lot of art. So how much does the external appreciation that you get for your performances or your art really matter to you?
Good question. So as a singer and artist, appreciations actually do matter to me, only because okay, so hate comments, those are in the trash, they're gone, nothing to do with that. But constructive criticism and appreciations are the ones I really keep with me, because what I do is that, or what I feel is that appreciations are the blessings that I get from all these viewers and people, because people can choose not to listen to my music. People can choose to just walk away and never see my face again. But they take the time out of their day to come watch my video, type in their appreciations, give me the appreciations. And I really thank them for doing that. And so I feel like that's a blessing. And then constructive criticism, I grow from it. If somebody's saying, like, I went a little flat on my singing, or my art is too maybe blended, maybe not to use too much blend on my art, that's a constructive criticism. And I grow from that. So definitely there aren't any negative aspects that I take from any of the appreciations or criticisms. And it's definitely important with what I do.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. Now, I know you guys are all extremely talented people. It's obvious here, but and Kriti, you are also an extremely talented person. You've been sharing with us that you are learning a couple of new instruments and you do a lot of art. But what about for people who don't feel like they don't have any, who don't feel like they have any special talents? How would you recommend for them to feel content or appreciated?
Okay. So I think there's multiple parts to this question. But first of all, I just want to say, external validation, you don't need lots of that. So don't worry about, doing things to gain external validation. Second of all, I want to say that not everyone realizes they have a talent. So if you see someone doing something that you really appreciate, or you recognize that they have a talent, don't be afraid to say something about it, because a little comment can go a long way. So going back to the question, I want to say that if you feel like you don't have a talent, maybe you just haven't discovered it yet. Branch out, explore new things, and you'll find something that you are going to feel you're going to love doing it, that you're going to feel contented with it, but you will also, maybe gain external validation. Another thing, if you are mediocre in certain multiple aspects, maybe combine it. For example, let's say you're mediocre in art, and you have a skill, which is you like working with kids, or you genuinely enjoy working with little kids. You can combine that and maybe teach arts and crafts to little kids, and you will be contributing to society, which in turn gains appreciation from society. Another thing I want to say is you don't need specifically a talent to gain, appreciation from society. Just be a good person. What I mean by that is, for example, Mother Teresa or Gandhi. You don't even know if they were talented in certain things, but they're known for standing out for what they believe in. Being selfless, and all these qualities that help build your character can also be the factors that put your name out in society.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. And of course, we have here today our very special guest speaker, Abhinav. So welcome, Abhinav. Do you have anything to add on in terms of anything in general for what we've talked about today?
Hi, everybody. First of all, I will say a very good presentation. You guys covered all the important points that needed to be, pointed at and told to the audience. So that was really good, amazing presentation. I think I would just like to add on to what Kriti said. Having your own morals and principles, and following them, and not letting your morals and principles getting influenced by anybody else, shows your character. And that character will stand out in society. So you don't need any, even if I would say talents or anything, there's no need for any special talents. People have their own capabilities. If you're good at academics, that is your talent. If you're good at singing, that's your talent. Everyone has something special with them. But if they don't, to be a person who has absolute special character, who has a very good set of morals and principles that he or she goes by, is the absolute definition of character, according to me, and not letting that get influenced, especially when you go out to college or when you go out in the outside world. That shows, your character as a person in society, and you will be respected for that person who you are in society. You can't, for example, you can't lie your way through society and gain respect, because that's never going to happen. And another point that I would also like to share is that if you're very worried about, if society's going to judge you, or what's going to happen, then there's no point in doing that, because society will always judge you, whatever you do. There's a really interesting story where there's this son and father, and the father is sitting on a donkey and walking through the village. So the villagers point at, this whole scenario, and they're like, oh, he's such a bad father. He's making his son walk all the way. The son should be sitting on the donkey. This is wrong. So, okay, the father, he gets down the donkey, he puts his son on the donkey, and then he walks to the next village. The next village says, this is so wrong. The father's walking. The father should never walk. And the son is walking, is on like a king on his donkey, walking through. This is wrong. So then again, they switch. And this happens multiple times. So the point is, society will keep on pointing. It depends on what you want to do, what is right to you. What are again, it all comes down to your morals, your principles. What are your morals? What are your principles? And how do you want to stick by it?
Exactly. What are your morals? How do you want to stick by it? Very good point, Abhinav. Thank you. Thank you so much. Very good points. So now we have a question for Medha. If we strive for appreciation, the quality of our actions and perfection can diminish, kind of like Abhinav mentioned in his story. So how do we balance the two? How do you propose that we balance the two?
How we balance perfection and external validation.
Yeah, exactly.
So one thing that's really important to address right off the bat is that there's no way to genuinely and truly love yourself if you're trying to craft a mask of perfection around you. Because honestly, this has been said so many times since you're small all the way to when you're old. There's no way to be truly perfect because it depends on who's looking at you. There's no way to be perfect for everyone. What you need to do is try to be what you can be, like to the best of your abilities. And external validation, I feel it's a tool along the way to just help you up when you need it. And like I mentioned when I was talking about how to improve self-contentment, is that external validation is important, but not too much of it. And it's important to come from people who truly know you, because then they give you the validation that you need, not only to just feel good, because that can also lead to ego and lots of other things that aren't helpful, but also criticism, healthy criticism, so you can grow as a person. So I feel that there should be a balance with how much you have of that.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Thank you.
I would
And
like to add on to what Meda said, if you don't mind.
please, okay.
Ego is a big issue that I find nowadays in, like, I feel in today's society, because some of, like, I've seen many kids who have, like, they don't understand the concept of ego or being arrogant as such, and that's become such a big problem, because in today's world there's no such thing as being humble or being, being modest or being down to earth, because students, like, I've seen many students who, just because they're on a really good level, academic level, or they have such a good grade, that they'll start behaving as if they know everything, or like they're the king of it all. No, this is something that should not happen, because again, this taints your character. Being very egoistic in society is, like, again, like, society will start pointing fingers at you for being arrogant in such a way. So I feel like, humbleness should be practiced more and more, and the only way to gain like to be, or like how to be humble is, like, for example, even like sweeping your own house or doing your house old chores, that gives you that humbleness, that you're working, you're doing something like productive, but at the same time it's something that you wouldn't normally do. So that gives you that kind of just of humbleness. So I thought, like, Mayda's point was really good about the ego, so I wanted to add on. Thank you.
Real quick, I want to add on to that. I feel like it can be confusing. I've seen it, at least. I've seen people confuse humbleness with self-deprecation. So for example, when you're like, oh, I like your work, they'll be like, oh, it's not that good. Or they keep like putting themselves down. And no, you can accept it. That's not being proud. But at the same time, remember where you started and know that how hard you worked for it. So yeah, that's my.
Yeah, just adding on to what Kriti said, I was going to say the exact same thing. But because I used to do that too, it's crazy. Like, even with Kriti used to be like, oh my gosh, Christy, your artwork is so good. And I used to be like, it's nothing. And I've actually learned from that. I don't do that anymore. And I'm happy that I don't do that anymore. But there's another aspect to that. If Kriti said my artwork is good, and if I took it like, yeah, I know I'm the best kind of thing, that's where the ego comes in. That's like the head weight. And you need to learn when it's okay to say thank you, and you need to know when it's okay to not, or when it's okay to really say that, yeah, thank you, I know, kind of thing. And when it's not, or when it's okay to say, oh no, because at this point you should know that if you're good at the thing and if you're not good at the thing, because if you're not, you can learn from it. You can tell the person like, oh yeah, I'm not good at it, but thank you for appreciating my work. But if you're good at it, take the appreciation, accept it. And the whole thing is just don't be self-deprecating, but also don't have a lot of head weight. And that's the kind of thing I was just trying to say.
Exactly. Yeah. Self-confidence and ego are not completely mutually exclusive, and there are different levels to the ego that we can have. So thank you to Abhinav, Medha, Srishti, and Kriti for bringing up all of those very good points. And of course, now for Siri and Pranav, we have a very important question, which is how can people stay motivated on their journey towards self-contentment?
Actually, my sister is not there, but I can.
Yes, please.
So actually, self motivation comes from within yourself, and you need to like if you want to if you want to be like a good basketball player, um, you need to like I'm I've been watching some like basketball games, and like LeBron James is like was always my he was like always he was the one who was like I was watching all his games, and he was like doing a lot of like 3-point shooting, dunking. So like that's what motivated me to like not as like a sport, like I don't do it like every day, but just for exercise. So that's how it motivated me.
Yeah, that's a very good example of, looking up to your idols and taking inspiration from them and knowing that maybe, one day you can be just as good as them. So that's a very incredibly amazing point. Um, does anyone else have anything to add on to that?
Yeah, I
Uh,
would say whatever he said would really bring up a person's self esteem if they have an idol to follow. Only because the person is so big and they're getting all these appreciations. And knowing that you're following the right path is definitely a good point that Pranav mentioned.
yes, and I think Abhinav, you might have had something to add as well.
Yeah. So self-contentment is basically being, happy with oneself, right? So without seeking the validations of others, being happy with your own work, right? So if it's Shrishti's artwork or anybody singing, if you're happy with what you've done or what you've produced, then it doesn't matter what anybody else has to say, because you know that you've done your best and you know that, you've given it your all. And I feel like that's where that self motivation comes in, you giving your 100%, getting that appreciation from the outside, and then motivates yourself to do even better, to be even better. So as Shrishti and Pranav said, looking up to idols is very important. For example, LeBron James, looking at all the hard work he's done, it motivates you to get to that level. So yeah.
To
Exactly.
add
Yeah,
on to that,
please.
um, I think, okay, so I personally, I do this thing where I look back on my day and I think, okay, what was the best part of my day? Because no matter how bad your day is, comparatively, there's always going to be a good part of your day. And if someone says they have a bad day, I try to ask them the same question. So reminding of yourself of what you're thankful for or what went good about your day. It could be something small like, oh, I finally had Cheetos after a few months. Just reminding yourself of those tiny good things can keep you motivated. But at the same time, self-contentment is also about self-improvement. So you also need to remember to self-critique. By that, I don't mean like, oh, I suck at this. What can I do better to be better at something I'm already good at? Or maybe something I'm still trying to get better at, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, of course, gratitude is a very important part of that. Some people, I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but some people actually recommend like before you go to bed every day, like writing the 3 best parts of your day in the notebook and like a gratitude journal or something like that. So that, yeah, that's an incredibly good point. And of course, keeping in mind that like not, so there are some of the things that you do will give you external validation. Like for example, my brother, he sings. And so like when sometimes my mom will like record it or something and then she'll like send it through like the family group chats or whatever, and like he sits there reading the feedback or the comments that he gets, and you can just see that he's really happy by the external validation that he gets. On the other hand though, he also plays tennis, and those grueling tennis practices, it's not like there's going to be a crowd waiting there to say, hey, you did amazing today in your practice. But internally he can judge his performance and say like, I scored this much today, I think I did well. So it also depends on the kind of activity that you're doing as well. If it is inherently one that will give you external validation, or if it is something that based off of your own performance, you can judge and you can use that to boost your self-confidence as well. So thank you all of you for those really good points.
I think Shrishti has something to add on, about this topic.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say, like, ultimately, competing and comparing yourself with your already better self is something that people should follow, because as Kriti said, looking back at like a day before, if your day was good or not, and then looking at your day today, if it was good, just comparing it with yourself is what probably would add up to the best like self-content. Because what I do is that last year I was not that great in studies. Why? Because I was just so focused on like extracurricular activities. And then I realized that's not a good lifestyle for me. I'm trying to go into the med school kind of situation here. And if I don't study, I'll die. So I kind of just reflected on that. And then as soon as senior year started, I kept a journal. I competed with myself every single day. If I study 2 hours today, I'm studying 3 hours tomorrow. And I just kind of became like a better person, a better version of myself. And I'm moderately happy now. So that's something good.
I would like to just share one more thing here. Notice how Shrishti said she compared herself with her better self. That's a very important point. Comparing yourself with other people never goes good. Why? Because the qualities I might have, Shrishti may have better qualities or other qualities that I may not even have. And I can't compare. I cannot say that I have to learn how to be like Shrishti or like get the qualities she has, because that is something that is inborn or like naturally with her. So never compare yourself with others. You have your own capabilities. So compare yourself with yourself or your better self, as Shrishti said. That's one very important point that she made.
Exactly. Very good points. So yeah, we actually have one of the questions that we had today was, how do we know that we've reached an unhealthy level of dependence on external validation? How do you kind of know when you reach that meter, like, oh, I've spent too much energy or too much time waiting for praise and applause from others rather than focusing on myself? How can you kind of realize that you've done that to yourself?
I feel. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead.
Okay, so I feel like when you reach the point when you're relying too much on external validation, when if you don't get that validation, you feel really bad inside, because that's the whole debate, right, between external validation and self-contentment. I feel if you have zero self-contentment and every day you find yourself, for every small thing you do, you find yourself asking someone, whoever it is it good? Is it this? Is it, if you're not able to validate it to yourself, then I feel you'll know.
Yeah, you'll know. Very good. Thank you. Srishti and Abhinav, you guys. Srishti, would you like to go first?
Yeah, whatever Meda said is absolutely correct. And personally, how I know I'm going down that little train is that whenever I think way too much about other people more than myself, because if somebody else is on my mind, and that makes me sad that, oh, this person did not really appreciate me. And then the thing I do is just, I realize that, obviously, that there's somebody else on my mind other than me. Like, I have so many other things to focus on. Why am I focusing on this one person that gave me hate comment, right? So I just go back to thinking about me, and then I'm happy.
Thank you.
I agree with what Shrishti said. Because see, according to me, the moment you start waiting for appreciation, the moment where you stop continuing your work so that you can get appreciation for your other work, that's the time you become dependent on, appreciation or external gratification. The moment where you stop your whole line of work. So if it's Shrishti's producing music, right? And she just put on a video on YouTube and she's literally stopped for an entire month just because she wants to see what are the comments, what are the hate comments. That's the time you've become dependent on this, external source of gratification. That's the time you have to tell yourself that, no, I gave it my 100% and I'm going to give it my 100% the next time too. Hate comments, again, as a lot of us, we touched upon, criticism and constructive criticism. Taking the constructive part of that appreciation and applying it to a different area is another technique that we have to implement.
Yes, exactly.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So another important thing is the moment when you realize that once someone gives you feedback that's negative perhaps, and you start looking at something you're proud of, you start looking at it in a completely different light. That's another moment when you know that you're relying too much on external validation. Because when you're really proud of something, you need to remember why you're proud of it. But if it's so flimsy that one comment can change your entire viewpoint on it, you know that you haven't built enough self validation on it.
Yes, that's a very important point to keep in mind. Thank you so much. And I think we have time for one TBH kind of question, to be honest. So you guys are wonderful panelists and guest speakers today. So the question for you is, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest, how much do you crave external validation? So we can just go in whoever wants to go first can share. How much do you crave external validation?
Okay, I'll go. Being completely honest, please don't judge me. I would say either 6 or 7. But it's based on the work I do. I do art and sing a lot, but I still do crave a lot of attention.
No, thank you for being honest. There's no shame in that at all. I think it's something that's very inherent in a lot of humans because we are like, I don't want to say herd animals, but we are a kind of species that likes to live in communities, and we are the kind of species that likes having other people around us, and people that we love and who love us back. And so I think it's very natural to want to have some level of appreciation from the people around us. It's very natural. So thank you for being very candid about that and sharing with us about that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I'm not addicted or anything because we shouldn't be addicted. But it's just like more than a lot of people, I think there's that level of crave.
Well, that's okay. Thank you. Anyone want to go next? I can go next. Especially now, because this question is asking about right now. I don't do any art. I don't sing. I'm not like a performing kind of person. And because we've been in quarantine for so long, I've gotten really used to just staying with myself and having myself keep me company. And so because of that, I've noticed that like my desire for external validation has kind of decreased. At the same time, now that like the real world or like the academic school year is about to start again pretty soon, I can kind of feel myself like inching up a little bit on that scale and saying like, it would be nice to like get back in touch with my friends, or kind of starting to think about that external validation, those kinds of things as I re-enter society as a post-quarantine teenager. So that is my experience. I think Kriti or Abhinav, please, Abhinav, go ahead.
Yeah, I think on a scale of 1 to 10, rate your external validation thing, right? Sridhara, is that what you're asking? Okay, so I think I would say 4. I'll tell you why this number, because my whole my morals or principles, my whole belief system it can be really people can criticize it a lot, but if I go on listening to each and every criticism that they have, I will be left with nothing. I'll just be listening and I'll be like, oh, okay, like there's that much criticism on some things I believe on. So I don't like to like generally get a lot of, external validation. Like if people want to give appreciation or constructive criticism, I will surely listen. But do I like need it for like my work to go on? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But as Sridhara said, she made a really good point. When you go to school, when you return back to school, that's when things change, because I think in a high school or a college environment, things change very differently and drastically. I would also like to make another point. I'm so sorry, I just don't mean to diverge, but to all the singers and dancers and to any performing artists or anyone who puts their music on the internet, you are literally taking the time to produce music, get a mic set, sing 1,000 times to make it perfect and produce it and put it on the internet, which is a totally time consuming process. So if you get any constructive criticism, you have put yourself out there. You put in the effort. You put in the time. So no, if anyone criticizes you, just ignore it, because literally you've taken that much effort into what you've done, and it's because you love that particular thing. So don't let any criticism go to your head. That's one thing I just wanted to say.
You really
Thank you.
just put your entire heart out there, your all entire performance, and it's very personal things that you put on the internet. So definitely take criticism with a grain of salt. Yes, thank you, Abhinav. Very good point. I think Pranav, I think you might have raised your hand. Would you like to go next?
I think I'm going for like 6 or something, because I also like sing and do like performances, like competitions also. Um, sometimes like sometimes I see the comments and they're not like, sometimes I sing a song and it's like the first song was like better than the second one. So but I ignore that. I'm more like, yes, I put the effort, so that's what I think.
Oh yeah, that's a very true thing. When you put your like art or singing or any creative thing that you've produced in the hands of other people, that's a very intimate thing that you're opening up to others for feedback, and potentially might even get criticism too. So that's a very good point. Thank you. And of course, Kriti.
So I think I might put myself, I feel like it changes, but as of right now, I think I would put myself also at a 5. Just because, to be completely honest, I know it's not a good thing, but I spend a lot of time like doing like projects on my own. Like I create covers, I do a bunch of artwork, and sometimes I share it with my friends for feedback, but I usually don't put it out there, even though like I'm really self-content with it. But I'm not like, I think I maybe, like, thinking about it now, maybe I don't put it out there because I don't know where to put it. Um and I don't know where like I would get, like, I don't am I scared of external validation, or like what people might say is what I'm thinking right now. But that's completely like, that's a little bit out of what the question was. But I'm just thinking out loud. But I think I'm at a 5 because I like going into social situations, especially now during quarantine. I'm not used to seeing people a lot. So when I do go out, I find myself double thinking about every tiny thing I'm doing because I feel like sometimes I forget how to socialize. But yeah.
Oh, yeah, and of course there's like, I think those are all very good points, and there's no like shame or harm in having uh, a rating on that scale of like 5 or higher, because like I said, we all as humans like to be appreciated by other humans. It's just who what we are, I guess. And I totally agree with you of like being in quarantine for so long. I feel like I've forgotten how to speak, or like how to, and so because of social distancing now, when I watch movies like pre-quarantine and I see people hugging or like shaking hands, inside I have a little panic. I'm like, why are they close to each other? What's going on? So yeah, I think quarantine really does shake up a lot of things. So that's very understandable.
I just want to add on to what Abby said earlier about like producing music and putting it out there. I feel like it also goes with all the people who are studious and really scholars, because you also seek validation from colleges, and sometimes when they don't accept you into the college, you kind of really just feel really bad and really sad because you put all this effort, 12 years of schooling, and then to go to college, to a dream college you want to apply, but they reject you after all this hard work you do. Really gets you feeling low. But I think that again, that's something you have to take care of yourself, because you put all the effort, what you are worth, how much how intelligent you are. So if a college doesn't accept you, they're lost, my guy. Like, you need to know your worth, and self-appreciation, self-content, that's where it all plays a role in.
I agree with you, Shrishti. The thing is, you have to just put a total spin on it. The way you should look at such things is that, oh, the college lost such a good candidate from his list. that college is going to miss such an amazing person, or any platform. Oh, this platform has like missed such an amazing person who had such great ideas, you know. So take take a spin at it and make it look in another way, because see, you're always going to have opportunities, right? Some you'll get and some you won't get, but look at all of them in a positive way. Take the positivity from it, you know.
To add on, sorry.
Just wanted to ask you, like all of you, this is Dilip here. I would like to ask you, is it positive validation is good or the negative validation is good?
Real quick, before I want to put my take on that question, I had something to add to what Abhi and Trishti said. I was watching a movie with my family the other day, and one quote really stuck out to me, which was that we spend a lot of our time worrying about what to do after we succeed at something. For example, we make plans for what career we want to take after we get into a college we get into. But we don't spend much time worrying about our backup plan, like what happens if we don't get it, even though we put all this hard work in. So I think being able to plan for both of those things help with our self-contentment, because you know you feel like secure in your decisions, but also you feel confident in whatever happens. So that's what I wanted to add on.
I think I know.
And
sorry,
I can't remember the name, but like I can't remember the name, but
Dilipji?
Yeah.
Dilipji, what do you mean by positive and negative validation? I just wanted to ask you, can you just expand on what do you mean by that?
See, when you're talking about validation about yourself, then you have two sides of it. You know, you would get, you know, a positive validation, which is appreciation, and the negative validation, which is talking something which what you have done wrong.
Yeah, I think that.
Sorry, go ahead, Sridhar.
That's a very interesting question, a very good question too, and it really comes back down to, I think my take on that would be that we have to find a balance between not getting too attached to the positive feedback that we get. They're both, I think to directly answer the question, both are good. So you shouldn't, but there are loopholes with both of them. With the positive one, we shouldn't get too attached to the positive feedback that we get. And to the negative one, we shouldn't let that drag us down too much either. Both of them, we should take with a grain of salt, and also check in with our internal meters or internal consciences about, you know, kind of about how exactly we feel about the work that we've done, and then take into consideration the external one. But both are good when in moderation and taken with a grain of salt, I would say. Who would like to go next?
No, but you are saying that when you're saying that when it is going to be a positive, you should not be attached, but it's a negative, then you should be attached. Is that what you're trying to say?
When it's negative, you shouldn't let it drag you down. You should always check in with yourself about how you feel about the work that you did, and not let that negative feedback that you get drag it down, but kind of how Abhinav said earlier, see how you can change that into some kind of positive feedback. See how you can change that to be something that is constructive for your life. If someone says, you know, I didn't like your artwork, okay, so then say, what about this do you think I could have improved? Do you know, is there anything specific that you have for me, or is that just a hate comment? If it's a hate comment, toss it out. If they have some kind of real feedback in there, something constructive to help you improve, then see, okay, maybe this is something that I can improve upon, and maybe they might have a point here. But you should always check in and say, is this a hate comment, or is there something constructive lying inside it?
To add on to that, again, I think you brought up very good points, and you need to know how to balance it out. And if you're feeling that you're at a really good place with your artwork and you really love it, make sure you pay attention to the constructive criticism, not necessarily hate comments, like you said, but look for a common thread in what they're saying. Maybe they're all pointing out towards a specific area you should improve on. Don't be dragged down by it, especially if you're happy with what it is. You need to look at how to improve it. But at the same time, if you're not sure about your own artwork, make sure you bring yourself back up with the positive feedback. It's all about the balance there.
Yeah, and as I said before, oh, sorry, Abhi. Okay. As I said before, celebrate the success and grow from the failures. So there are 4 categories, right? There's hate comments, There's negative validation, which basically means constructive criticism, and then we have positive validation, which means genuine appreciation, and the fourth one is just random people that say, "Oh, you look pretty," just to gain attention from others. So these two we don't do. We throw them in the garbage. Why? Because they don't matter to us. And then we have constructive criticism and appreciation. Constructive criticism, we grow from it because we consider them as small, tiny failures. And as Kriti said, I think, artwork. I did an artwork and something's wrong with it. I drew the fingers bad. Someone will tell me I drew the fingers bad. So that's my failure. I failed at drawing a hand. But I'll grow from it. I'll practice how to draw a hand. And that is, I'm taking the good from the criticism. And then appreciations as well. I'm taking the good from the appreciations. Why? Because they tell me, oh, your artwork is good, your colors, you use so many good colors, and then next time when I do it, I use more good colors, make it more I guess colorfully diverse, and people will love the artwork that I did. So I think both of them are good, but both of them are can get bad sometimes because they're four categories.
Thank you. Very good detailed breakup of the categories. Anyone have anything else to add to that one?
Just wanted to ask you, how do you differentiate from a hate comment from a constructive negative comment?
Okay, I got this one because I get a lot of these. Hate comment. Hate comment is basically when. So why do people do hate comments in the first place? Because one, they might be jealous of you, and two, they just honestly just one, they're jealous of you. They can't probably do something that you're good at, and they can't get at that level. So a hate comment example would be, again, I'll take my art example. I drew an art. They would say, "Oh yeah, it's ugly. You don't have talent. What is this waste art?" So that's a hate comment. Constructive criticism is they would start off saying, "Oh, good try. I can see that you gave your best in this artwork, but there are a few flaws that you can work on, that you can fix." And again, I'll take my hand example because I honestly can't draw hands. But they can say like, "Oh, your hand is a little bit off. Maybe try drawing in the shapes first, and then you can add on the fingers." So constructive criticism, they give you examples on how to improve it. Hate comments, they just say it's ugly, and then they leave. I think that's what I feel.
Yeah, but also I think what she said is really important. For constructive criticism, they can add on saying, "I like your attempt," but sometimes even from what can appear to be a hate comment at first, it could be constructive criticism, because when you ask them to elaborate, they can point out what they didn't like about it. So you need to remember to sometimes delve deeper into comments or feedback to know what type of what type it is.
Yes, exactly. I hope that answered your question. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay. Yeah, I think that's all that we have for today.
Yeah. So yeah, this is absolutely, the way you guys presented, sorted it out. It was just amazing. Just amazing. Do we have any questions from YouTube or any place?
No, I think that's it.
That's it. And yeah, we are past 13 minutes past the hour, and we come to this amazing conclusion that what I gathered from all of you that participated, and you did such a wonderful job, each one of you. You added your points, you tried to clarify. And so the crux of it, I guess, the deepest craving of human nature is the need to be appreciated. And a person, I feel, who, feels appreciated will always do more than what is expected. But when we don't get it, or by nature, if we should have self-contentment. To be self-contented does not mean you do not desire appreciation or gratefulness, but it means you have the capability to be thankful for what you have, and the patience for what's to come. So yes, if you really like this webinar, please have join us being mentors for the parents and for the students who wants to be guest speakers. You can join the group, email us at webinar@letustalkit.com. And for next week, the youths have already prepared a very, very interesting topic: how to redo high school. If they had to redo high school, what would they have done? So with that exciting topic to be discussed next week, we would appreciate if parents and youths, they join us. And as you all know, we have our regular professional webinars every week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 12 to 1 p.m. EST. And we have next week, Tuesday, we have the professional webinar topic, creating a resilient workplace culture through change management. And with that, we end this session of Let Us Talk It Youth series. Thank you all for joining in. Have a wonderful day and have a wonderful weekend ahead. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Let everybody benefit from
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.